when I was looking at non-alc wines before Buzzkill was even a thing, I was like really adamant that I personally wanted to drink wine out of a bottle, because if there's no alcohol in it, I was like, okay, well, I want the wine experience. So to me, like, pouring out of a bottle is part of the experience, part of the ritual.
Right.
That being said, when I started learning about, I started learning about more about the industry and more about like the liquid itself and just practical reasons that you wouldn't want a bottle. It became apparent that cans would be a better choice for our product. One of the reasons is that obviously with no alcohol in the product, there's no like preservative, there's no stabilizer. So You don't want to open a bottle of wine and then have to drink, like it doesn't stay, you can't just pop the cork back in. It doesn't stay good for a couple days in the same way that wine with alcohol does. So that was one reason, is that we wanted the single serve. Another reason was, at the time, which I still think this holds true, a lot of times if you're not drinking, you'll be like the only one or one of only one or two people that aren't drinking in a big group. And so you don't want to haul like a whole bottle just for you to drink. So the cans have made it easy for people to like transport if they're going to a party or whatever, they can bring it with them. And then in addition to that, restaurants and bars really like it a lot more than a bottle for the same reason that, again, they don't have to open and waste a whole bottle if they only sell like a glass or two, in a night. So, the cans just honestly from like a practicality standpoint, they worked. And then from just a branding standpoint as well, our brand is a lot more edgy and fun and casual than all of the other non-alc wine brands out there right now. So it just makes sense from a branding standpoint.
No, that makes sense. Did that aluminum shortage affect you at all, or no? No, you're fine.
No, it didn't. We kind of were on the tail end of that.
Nice.
It was certainly like a thing that we were talking about, but by the time we canned, we were able to get our cans, and now we actually get our cans from Canada. And they ship from Canada to Sacramento, where we do our canning, and we have not had an issue with a can shortage at all since we did our first canning.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I heard you say that you get all your grapes from one area. Now, which most regular wines don't even get it from one place; they get it from multiple places.
Yep.
How important is it how important and how hard is it to make sure you're getting it all from one place?
So we actually have a really unique setup. Buzzkill Wines has a partnership with a multi-generational family winery that has 10,000 acres of vineyard in Lodi. So they grow 34 varietals of grapes on their land, and they have a whole winemaking team, and we get all of our grapes from that winery, which is totally unique, not only for non-alc, but also for regular wine. Like, as you said, we're not buying wine on the bulk market. It's really cool because we know exactly where the grapes are coming from. We can test a lot. We can taste things. It's just wonderful. It's a great setup.
That is amazing. Are you able to release who this family is?
I can't.
Okay.
I don't think I can. I'll ask, and I'll let you know after this call if I can. Cause I think the deal is we're not supposed to say it, but there might have been a change in we just finished up the contract, so I got to double check.
I mean, if you can't, it's totally okay. I know the Lodi area of California, there's a lot of great grapes and wine coming from that area. So you're getting
and it's a little bit under the radar too.
Yeah, big time. I mean, most people think about Napa and they might think of the Monterey area, but Lodi, there's so many great wines coming out of that area.
So many great wines, and I will say, not that it makes any difference because I haven't said who the family is, but they have been absolutely unbelievable to work with. It is so cool working with a family. It's truly a family business, where every single person that I've met and that works there is so knowledgeable, and it's a fully integrated winery. So they have everything on site. Like, they grow the grapes, they crush the grapes, they have a bottling line. They have,
Wow.
you know, a huge office where they've got their winemakers working. It's a really cool setup. So I've learned a lot, and they've also just been so helpful to me from like an operational standpoint because they've been in business for so many years. It's been really, really helpful to a small business like mine.
Right. I imagine the trips there are not the worst either because the view is so amazing there.
The trips are so unbelievable. First of all, it's a gorgeous drive to get there.
Yeah.
And then, like the land itself is just stunning. And the buildings they have on property are beautiful. And yeah, it's a great treat to get to go there.
Yeah.
I always say it reminds me of like, have you seen like the new Parent Trap? Like the one with Lindsay Lohan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it reminds me of like when I first came, it reminds me of like the guy that is like the patriarch of the family. He like rolls up in his like pickup truck with his dog hanging out of the window, and I'm like, this is just like Dennis Quaid in The Parent Trap.
It's true because again, they're multi-generation families, and they've been doing it for so many years and decades that a lot of them do just drive the old trucks because to them that's a small town, even though it's thousands of acres of wine. It's all farm town, really, if you think about it. And so it's just a bunch of farmers hanging out. So some of them might, yeah, you might see some fancy cars, but for the most part, you're getting a lot of beater trucks that are the best.
That's one of my favorite things about just winemaking culture in general is I think Napa and, just because of how it's portrayed in the media, people think it's like incredibly glamorous. But the reality, like you were saying, is like this is farming. Like this is real agriculture. And the people that live out there and actually are on the land are doing hard work. And so it's you got to respect those people that like live out there and like they live and die by like the weather. And it's really, really cool. And you really get I've gained a lot of respect for, it sounds so like cliche and like silly, but like from like Mother Earth and nature and like all of the things that go into making a great glass of wine. You really do learn that like it's not easy.
Yeah. No, not at all. I mean, again, like you said, it's out of their control almost completely because Mother Nature it's up to Mother Nature as to if they're going to get rain, if they're going to get the proper amount of sunlight, what the weather is going to be, like all of that, which again, they can't, for the most part, control at all. The most thing they can control is hoping that they can get, the birds not to, infect and get all their grapes, or they have, I've heard some wineries will have like llamas or some crazy animals out there just so they can scare away other animals. And it's like, it's so fun to listen to those little like small details that most people just wouldn't even think about because it's like, oh, it's grapes. They're growing grapes. Yeah, well, there's also animals that want to come in and steal those grapes.
Yeah, they also have a huge sustainability program at this winery, where one of the cousins is in charge of the sustainability program, and they do a lot of great work with the way she explained it to me was it's not like it's trying to improve anything necessarily, it's trying to maintain because it's so hard in this world we live in, right? It's so hard to maintain like, a beautiful, natural, healthy ecosystem. And they do a lot of work also with schools in San Francisco, like inviting them out for field trips and teaching them about careers in agriculture because it's really interesting and something I hadn't thought about until I got out there. Like there's so many kids that maybe grow up in cities or suburbs who don't want that like, hustle culture sort of like city life, but they're still interested in, a corporate job. And there's so many jobs in agriculture that are corporate that, allow you to live in a beautiful place like Lodi or Napa or, like a small town and you can be like, the CFO or, an accountant or all these different jobs, production manager, like all of these jobs that are needed out there. And it's just, no one thinks about that when they're in school.
Right, because again, it's not the sexy part of being in the wine industry, is the getting your hands dirty and actually getting sweaty and putting in the work. Everyone thinks about the back end of it of like selling the wine or drinking the wine. It's like, yeah, that's the product after the fact. Like that's the reward of the great work that you've done leading up to it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I really hope that there are more kids, out there that do see that side of it, and like, this interests me way more than, like you said, having an office job or anything like that that's just gonna, drag you down or not fulfill you. This will fulfill you. Obviously you're gonna have good days and bad days like any job, but as long as it fulfills that itch you have and you really have that passion behind it, that's what's more important at the end of the day.
Totally. And I think also I've gained such an appreciation for how satisfying it can be, not just with the agriculture side of things, but just like working with a physical product. I mean, when you own a small business like mine, prior to this, I was working in tech and marketing, and you never like touched the product. Like, you're literally in front of a computer screen all day, which I think most people in corporate America are living that kind of life. And with owning a small business and kind of having to do everything myself, I've gained such an appreciation. Like, it is so satisfying, even though it's backbreaking work, to be in like a warehouse and moving hundreds and hundreds of cases of wine in one day and like stickering them and whatever, because when you get done, it's like such a sense of accomplishment. Like, you look at this pile of stuff and you're like, yeah, wow, like I did something today.
Right.
So, it's a lot more satisfying than slapping your laptop down.
I imagine that is satisfying, is when you get to turn that off and go live your life. But like you said, after, a full day of bottling or canning or whatever, you get to look and be like, oh man, we did all of that? That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah. Now, you guys have a Sauvignon Blanc, you have a Cabernet, and you have a sparkling. What other additions can we look forward to the cellar?
So the Cabernet and the sparkling are actually shipping out of our canning facility for the first time on December 21st. So
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so no one's tried them yet, except for our team. But they're absolutely amazing, really delicious, and we're going to be the first 100% Cabernet non-alc that's still. So not a sparkling red, not a blend, just 100% Cabernet, which is very exciting.
Wow.
And the sparkling is delicious too, very celebratory, and it's a Blanc de Blanc. So, in addition to that, we've got plans for a rosé in the spring, and then, we're a small team, so 4 varietals. It's been a grind for me dealing with one varietal, which I will say I am so happy that I started with just one, with just the Sauv Blanc, because just to learn on, like, with Amazon and sales and all of that. It's been great just learning with one, but we're adding 2 new SKUs and then a 4th in the spring.
That's so amazing. And it's so great that you are getting the Blanc de Blanc out there right before, not only, dry January, but right before the New Year, so people can actually, if they don't drink, they could celebrate with that. Exactly.
Yeah. It's been really exciting. We've got, Buzzkill's kind of like a cult favorite among the stores that we're in, and we've already got, tons, honestly, like, of pre-orders for the red and the sparkling, which is exciting.
I imagine that's super exciting. I mean, you're in a category that, like we talked about earlier, has grown so much, again, since the days of it's just for pregnant women or recovering alcoholics. What have you noticed is the biggest thing that's helping the category to grow the way it is?
It's such a great question. There's the obvious answer that everyone writes about, which is like Gen Z is just not into drinking in general. But I honestly think it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And I don't think that maybe there isn't any like hard data or research pointing to this, but just my sense of how this category is exploding. I'm right smack dab in that millennial like demographic. And I think that millennials have had kind of like the short end of the stick since childhood, right? Like, we had 9/11 and then, wars and the recession, and then people were graduating college. It was hard to get a job. And just, I don't know. And in addition to this, I always call it like we're almost an experimental generation with the internet because we're the first generation to remember